Hey everybody, today we are going to be talking about the impact of multimedia on student learning. My name is Kelsey Long and I am an elementary teacher who loves to use multimedia in her classroom, and I am very excited to share with you some information on multimedia and student learning. So our objectives for today are going to be to talk about the definition of multimedia and talk about a few different perspectives of multimedia. We're also going to talk about several learning theories. I know as teachers, we all have ideas about how students learn. So we're going to talk about a few of those today. And then we're going to talk about some of the benefits of incorporating multimedia into your classroom. So let's get started. So in today's world, it is very uncommon to have products or even teaching tools that are not multimedia based. I know that multimedia is not brand new, but because technology is constantly changing and growing, we now have so many opportunities as educators to provide our students with new ways to integrate and use media in the classroom that we may not have even been able to use when we were students. So before we start, I would love for you to think about how you would define multimedia. If you're watching this presentation with a team or a group of fellow educators, I would love for you to turn and talk to the team about how you would define multimedia. Okay, now that you've talked about multimedia and a few different ways that you could define it, let's talk about what it is. So, multimedia is just the use of several types of media to present information. When you think of multimedia, you think possibly about a text of graphics or even videos or sound. And all of those are great examples. But because multimedia has changed so much, we could even consider hypertext and hypermedia as part of multimedia. Hypertext and hypermedia provide electronic approaches to multimedia. And we're going to watch a brief video. It does a great job explaining the difference in the two. And then we're going to come back together and we're going to talk a little bit more about hypermedia and hypertext. Okay, so hypertext and hypermedia are not the first two things that pop into my mind when I think of multimedia, but they are two things that I use on a daily basis. As the video shared with us, hypermedia is anytime that you're clicking on an image that takes you somewhere else. So perhaps you're, at the bottom of a website of I don't know, a clothing store, and you might see a little logo at the bottom with the Facebook logo. And if you click on that picture of the Facebook logo, it might take you directly to that clothing store's Facebook page. Hypertext is essentially the same thing, but with a text feature. So if I'm reading the news online and there's a word that's underlined, perhaps maybe it's blue or different color, or if I hover my mouse over it and I can click on it, it's going to take me to a related story or to something with details related to what I'm reading. So that's hypertext. As we think about all of the ways that multimedia is used, it's important to think about how we can connect multimedia to our students because our students all learn differently. And so we're going to talk about a few learning theories to see how they relate to multimedia. So there have been many researchers that have developed theories on different ways to learn. Howard Gardner had a theory on multiple intelligences. In fact, Gardner mentioned that there were 8 different intelligences, as you see from the graphic listed on the left. He mentioned musical intelligence and how you perceived and transform musical forms. He mentioned logical mathematical intelligence, where you can reason and use numbers. There's linguistic intelligence and being able to use words effectively, and that can be whether you're speaking or whether you're writing. A kinesthetic intelligence is your body and how you're using your body to express your ideas and your feelings, or even your hands to create things. Gardner also listed an interpersonal intelligence, which is the ability to perceive and make distinctions in people's intentions and motivations, but also an intrapersonal intelligence, which is self knowledge, being able to act on what you know. And then lastly, the naturalist intelligence, which is the expertise of classifying living and non living forms and understanding things within nature. So Gardner believed that each person actually possesses all 8 of these intelligences. And I don't know about you, but when I'm looking at his chart of multiple intelligences, there are some that when I think about myself stand out as being more strong than others. And this is where multimedia can be a great tool because Gardner believed that we can combine our strengths and weaknesses of all 8 intelligences. And that's what makes us as a person. So if I'm good at solving a math problem and I have good logical mathematical intelligence, but I also need to write neatly and keep my numbers lined up so I don't mess up my problem, I might be calling on my spatial intelligence to make sure that I'm perceiving the visual spatial world accurately. Gardner's multiple intelligence theory, when thinking about multimedia projects, would encourage students to communicate knowledge in different ways. So, putting students in teams would allow them to divvy up who is going to perform which task, or which students um, the students could determine what they wanted to complete because they might have self awareness of their strengths or their weaknesses. And as a teacher, it's important that when we group our students together, we don't put all of our students with a musical intelligence in the same group or all of the students who have a logical mathematical intelligence in the same group. It's important to space our kids out in different groups so that they can all bring something to the table, so to speak. I think this is something a lot of teachers try to do anyways because we know the importance of students being able to lead in different ways and to learn from others. But it is interesting to compare his theory on multiple intelligences to what we know about students and how they learn. So, bouncing off of Gardner's theory, we're going to move into a theory about cooperative learning, which is also focused on groups, and it is called the cooperative learning theory. And before we talk about this, I would love to share another quick little video on cooperative learning.
In cooperative learning, the teacher puts students in small groups to do an activity together. The students take the lead in doing the activity. The teacher only provides guidance as needed. The teacher does not put the same students together for each activity, but changes the groupings. That way, students can learn from a variety of partners. So in cooperative learning, the teacher puts students in groups, lets them take the lead in doing the activity, and changes the groupings for different activities. This method helps students learn about sharing, getting along with others, and working together.
Okay, so as you saw in that video, it is a very group-oriented learning method. And it's going to take the place, or it's going to take place when students are working together to accomplish a shared goal. But they've also got to have respect for each other's learning. So there's 5 defining characteristics of cooperative learning. So the first one is positive interdependence, which this just simply means that the members of a group have a goal and they've got to look beyond their own individual abilities and be able to work together so that each member of the group can succeed. The second one is the individual accountability. And this just means that if each individual in the group is holding themselves accountable for high quality work and for their share of the work, then you're going to have a positive result. The third characteristic is face to face interaction, and this is done in a group where students are promoting each other's learning. It's important to know that with face to face interaction, it's not just about promoting learning through academics, but also for the members of the group to be a support system and to be there to help each other if they need it. The next two characteristics go hand in hand. You've got social skills as well as processing. Social skills are shown through teamwork and members working together to coordinate their efforts for a common goal, while group processing is the members of the group analyzing how well they're doing towards achieving their goals by working together and learning together. So there are so many different types of cooperative learning methods or techniques. You may have heard of the jigsaw method, and that's where each member of a group is assigned a particular task, and they each have to complete their particular task within the group. There's another technique for cooperative learning called a group investigation, and this is where there might be one overall class project, but each small group is working on a different part of that project. And it would be up to the group members to decide what they need to complete or what they need to research or how they would organize their work, and then they would come together at the end. So I know before I learned a lot about these learning theories and different methods of cooperative learning, I didn't know that there were specific names for things that I was already doing in my classroom. But what I have learned is that when done correctly, group work, especially with multimedia intertwined in the group work, can be extremely beneficial to the students. The last learning theory I'd like to talk to you about today is constructivism. And constructivism is a theory that's been described as just actively constructing knowledge. So, this is when students are using new information and comparing it or thinking about how it goes against or goes with their previous understanding and their background knowledge. The theory of constructivism has several different learning components. So we've got the active component where students are processing their information. This could be a multimedia project that allows students to find content and create media components. Another component of the constructivism theory is a cumulative component. So this is where students are building on that prior knowledge. Multimedia is excellent for connecting current knowledge and ideas with prior knowledge through a variety of formats. The integrative component allows for learners to elaborate on the new knowledge that they've just discovered. They could integrate multimedia to create a variety of ways to present their knowledge to others. And then the reflective component of constructivist learning is when students are assessing what they know and what they need to learn. And then the goal direct component is when learners are engaged in purposeful learning activities. So this might be a teacher and student working together to define certain learning goals or targets that a student would like to meet. So regardless of which learning theory you feel like fits best in your classroom, there's many benefits to incorporating multimedia. So why should we incorporate multimedia into our classroom? Why is this so important? Not only does multimedia allow us to integrate technology and curriculum, it also promotes active learning and inquiry and even problem solving environments that engage children not only by themselves but also with others in a group, which promotes social skills. It often tends to lead to higher order thinking skills. So, students are able to use technology to present and represent ideas. They can develop media literacy skills that involve critically analyzing the use of technology and then the information derived from them. They can connect things from the real world to a learning environment in the classroom, and they're given opportunities to show things in greater detail and with unique perspectives. So, I really hope that you've enjoyed this presentation on the impact of multimedia on student learning. If you have any questions, feel free to get in contact with me and let me know. Um, I encourage all of you to look at the ways that you can incorporate multimedia in your classroom, and I hope that you have a fabulous rest of the school year. Thank you very much.